Note on pricing. This is a really boring slide, but pricing is also quite boring, but it's really important. And I guess one thing that I wanted to just cover off at the start is, so the end price, so the price that the product ends up on shelf at and sells to the consumer at is at the retailer's discretion. So if you sell your product onto someone else for them to sell onto the end consumer, it's up to them to decide what to sell it for. And that is a kind of a legal, it's a law, you can't change that, and it's because of competition and kind of fair markets. You shouldn't panic about it. No one's going to come and arrest you if you accidentally tell a buyer what they should be doing. But it's just good for you to know, because I guess it does mean that fundamentally at some point in time you lose a level of control over your brand if you sell it into a supermarket and actually into anyone else as well. But what you can do is make a pricing recommendation. So you could say to them, you know, this is my can of juice and I think you should sell it at £2.50. And you can then kind of come to them with that view and tell them why you think that's right. And fundamentally, you are obviously in control of the price you sell the product to them at. So if you want to sell them to sell that can out at £2.50, if you sell it to them for £2.49, it's going to be really hard for them to sell it any cheaper than that. So, you know, there's an element of control that you can have in that area. So in terms of how you approach pricing, it is a difficult area. Often because also the supermarket does have a lot of power here. But I guess what I would say initially is have an honest conversation about it. You know, tell them what you want and why your recommendation is what it is, and get them to tell you their feedback about that, because it's much better to know at the beginning that they don't agree with that approach than it is at the end when it goes on shelf and it's in a place that you're not happy with it. So have the conversation. They will generally tell you whether they're aligned to your thinking or not. And if they're not aligned, you know, have a conversation about alternatives. Ask the question of why that is. Is it because you want to sell like a £2.50 a can and no one else in the market sells more than 50p? You know, then you're going to need to have a really solid reason for why you can do what you're doing. So be realistic from that point of view as well. On the other hand, as I said, you know, if you want to sell for £2.50, if you sell it for £2.49, then they can't sell a lot cheaper. That is true. But on the other hand, retailers need to make money, so they need to make margin. So, you know, if your product can be really profitable for them, that's a really good reason for them to sell lots of it. So if they can sell it for £2.50 and they'll still sell enough of it for it to be worthwhile, they will definitely do that. That's great. That's the ideal outcome. Where they'll have a challenge is if they don't think they can make it sell at that price, and that's when they'll drop it to a lower price. So if you feel comfortable around the positioning of the pricing that you guys both want to sell out at, give as much margin as you can, because that just makes your product more exciting and more profitable for them. That's especially the case if you're working with premium stuff. So generally what will happen is a retailer will, like something mainstream, so like with beer, because I know beer well, you know, like something like Budweiser or Stella, they'll make very little money on, but they sell huge amounts of it. So that's kind of one side of the business. Then they'll take something like us, Camden. They don't sell much of us at all, but every time they sell one of our bottles, they make quite a lot of money. So they can kind of balance out those different areas in that way. So that's a lot about the pricing for them and what they want to do. I guess the other side of this is only you know how much it costs you to make your product, and only you know how much it costs you to get it into their supermarket. So you need to know how much money you need to make and what you need it to sell them to them at. So they can give you a recommendation of what they want from you, but if it doesn't work, don't do it, because there is no alternative. You know, like they're not giving you some insight to make your brand cheaper. They're telling you what they want, but you have to work out if that's actually affordable for you. And prices rarely go up, you know, so if you start cheap, getting it higher in the future is going to be extremely difficult. Whereas if you could start high, you know, you can always lower it to drive kind of sales through faster.
Say that again, louder.
What did I say? Prices never go back up and never go up. That's my view. And then I guess, again, like before in this honest conversation, do ask the question, tell them, say like, what price do you want from me? What price you're expecting? They will obviously come in with something super high, take a fair chunk off that, but at least you'll know vaguely the area you're talking about, like whether it's £10 or £20 makes a big difference. So talk to them and ask them lots of questions.